In this segment of Indigenous Information Literacy, we will review source evaluation. Before we can evaluate sources, we need to understand what is their purpose. Why do we use sources? To start with, we need to acknowledge the contributions others have had on our learning. In academia, we do this through a process called citation. There are multiple citation styles which you may have heard of, including the MLA or Modern Language Association citation style, the APA or American Psychological Association style, or the Chicago style. All types of citation allow us to acknowledge the contributions of others and avoid plagiarism. For more information on citation style and plagiarism, please visit the Academic Integrity Pressbook. There are some additional reasons to use multiple sources. For one, having sources and cited sources allows a reader to dig deeper in the learning process by going to the original source the author used. Also, if the author and the reader have different interpretations of the original work, we can go back and double check what the author initially intended. When we cite our sources, we connect to a broader discipline of study, often grounding our work in a subject like business or health. If we're using credible sources, we are adding credibility to our thoughts. We'll talk more about the credibility of sources in the coming slides. When evaluating Indigenous sources for credibility, there are a number of factors to consider. One of the factors is date. The American Psychological Association Style Guide relies heavily on the work of Opaskwayak Cree Nation author Gregory Youngin. They recommend using extreme caution when using historical sources for information published prior to 1990 when referencing Indigenous peoples. This is because many older materials published about Indigenous peoples were published without considering Indigenous protocols, also known as Indigenous laws. Indigenous laws have different notions of ownership of information. In addition, many historic works were not checked for accuracy of the information collected about Indigenous peoples. As a result, many publications include information that is false. It is always best to double check your work and think critically when using any materials published prior to 1990 in relation to Indigenous peoples. A note on ownership. Author Gregory Youngin notes, Indigenous people think of creation as something that includes and sustains all living things. People are part of it and responsible for caring for it. The question of who owns it has no context. By contrast, who owns it preoccupies European notions of the world. As such, Indigenous peoples have formulated a new idea of ownership: Indigenous cultural property. Ownership or stewardship of Indigenous cultural property for future generations includes oral traditions, collective ownership, clan or family ownership, as well as rules regarding when or whom information is shared with. With this in mind, we will look at how to evaluate sources for credibility. When looking at Indigenous sources, it is important to identify the author. Many non-Indigenous peoples write about Indigenous experiences and misrepresent what they see or hear. Indigenous peoples are experts on Indigenous experience, so when possible, select materials authored by Indigenous peoples. Many Indigenous peoples emphasize the importance of the researcher in relation to their research. Terms vary by Indigenous language. The English translation of this concept is often referred to as locating or situating the self, as expressed in the writings of the Anishinaabe authors Wilson and Rizzo. The Indigenous authors typically situate themselves, sharing personal credibility, highlighting the extent and limitations of their knowledge and experience, as noted by Opaskwayak Cree author Wilson, Anishinaabe Kwe author Wegmagwans, and Appalachian Clan member from Queensland, Yankaporta. By situating ourselves, we humble ourselves admitting the limits of our experience and perception. As Indigenous peoples, we enter into relational accountability by connecting our work to our broader communities. I would like to pull out an example of what situating the author looks like in a research article. Here I have an excerpt from Tobacco Ties, found in the Journal of Native Education. This article is written by Anishinaabe researchers Debbie Wilson and Jean-Paul Rousseau. In this particular excerpt that I pulled, we can see all 4 components of the Situating the Author piece. And the excerpt reads, "My name is Debbie Dannard Wilson. I am Anishinaabe Kwe Ojibwe Sturgeon Clan from Rainy River First Nations in Northern Ontario." So the author is identifying the nations where they are from. As a mature student and a mother of 4, I started on my path in education. So they're talking a little bit about their family and their history. Currently, I am a PhD candidate studying in sociology and equity studies in education at the University of Toronto. Along this path, I discovered the need for traditional Indigenous knowledges and worldviews to inform and transform education. So now the author is talking about their personal journey through education and their connection to this research topic. By looking to my own family and community, I learned that academia could be a vehicle to share my research work with those who shared, directed, and guided me, the community. So now the researcher is acknowledging their teachers, the community. And so you can see all 4 components of the situating piece are interrelated and connected in this particular example. Another way to look at a source and assess credibility is through the research practice. Again, I will use this model with 4 components to look at how research can be done in a good way. Some of these components include consulting with the community and elders, offering gifts of reciprocity, so not going into a community, taking information and leaving the community with nothing. Following Indigenous protocols, so making sure that you're educated and following the protocols of the nation you're visiting. Research often involves transformation, and so researchers may change their perspectives or even their entire research topic based on following the consultation with community and the protocols and the reciprocity. Here I would like to draw an example of research done in a good way. Again, I will be drawing from the article Tobacco Ties from the Journal of Native Education, and I have a small excerpt below. The authors state, "We were never able to get to these big questions. We realized we had to slow right down to the first steps, respecting tobacco. We had agreed that when approaching elders, tobacco would be offered. As we engaged in conversation, much of the elders' teachings centered on the use of tobacco as a protocol. The present article reflects this change of focus." Looking at that particular paragraph, we can see that the authors changed their perspective on their research after consulting with the elders. They were following Indigenous protocols, such as giving tobacco to elders. Obviously, they were consulting with elders and community, and the tobacco acts as a gift of reciprocity, forming a relationship. So all 4 of these pieces were connected throughout this research process. Below is a list of references used for this segment of Indigenous Information Literacy instruction. My name is Rachel Chong, and I am the Indigenous Engagement and Subject Liaison Librarian at Kwantlen Polytechnic University. I am also the creator of this video series. If you have any questions about the content, please feel free to get in touch at rachel.chong1@kpu.ca.